This is the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast, presented by Massage Envy, the first podcast devoted entirely to Arkansas baseball. Featuring insight from Arkansas baseball color analyst Bubba Carpenter. Here's Matt Jones.
When Bubba Carpenter was playing for the Razorbacks, there was a basketball coach on campus named Nolan Richardson, and he used to say that a raggedy ride was better than a smooth walk, and I think that might be how you describe how the Razorbacks weekend went last week in Round Rock. It wasn't real pretty, but they still came out with 2 wins, their only loss being to what looks like a pretty good Stanford team. Stanford up to number 3 in the national rankings this week after they swept through Round Rock, really beat up on Indiana and Louisiana Lafayette and beat Arkansas 5-0. The Razorbacks now this week will come back to Baum-Walker Stadium for the start of a 13-game homestand. That begins Wednesday with a game against Nebraska-Omaha. And this weekend, the Razorbacks will play Southeastern Louisiana 3 times. Matt Jones with Bubba Carpenter, the color analyst for the Arkansas Razorbacks. And Bubba, let's start with just your overall thoughts on Round Rock. You know, the one thing that I kind of came out of it Sunday night thinking was the key is to win 2 out of 3 games. And it wasn't real pretty how they beat Louisiana Lafayette, but I thought that the home run that Jalen Battles had and, you know, the defensive plays that he made in the 9th inning, those were really winning plays that I think can maybe spark this team moving forward because, again, the objective is to win at least 2 out of 3, and they were able to achieve that.
I think you're right. I mean, Jalen Battles came up huge right there. If he does not hit that home run, I don't think we win that game, Matt. I mean, it's huge. You know, you win 2 out of 3 or win 1 out of 3. That's a huge difference right there. So Jalen came up really big right there. And, you know, you look at the game that we lost and, you know, I've said all along, I'm not worried about this team offensively. And the reason why is because we're still having quality at bats. I mean, for the most part, we're not expanding the zone a lot. We're not chasing, you know, pitches out of the zone. But boy, against Stanford, Quinn Matthews just had us we were flustered. I mean, he had us taking pitches down the middle. He had us swinging at sliders and breaking balls off the plate down and away, or chasing fastballs up out of the zone. He was doing a really good job at tunneling his pitches. And so I didn't know how good he was until, you know, I was able to talk to a couple of the guys, you know, when they got back here. And I'm like, they all said the same thing, Matt. They said, hey, this guy's going to pitch in the big leagues. They said he's as good as they've seen. They said he had 4 pitches going that night. You know, the week before he kind of struggled, but he put it together against the Hogs and had all 4 pitches going. He could ride his fastball at the top of the zone. He had 2 different breaking balls he could throw. He had a slider and a curveball. He had change up, and he could land them pretty much at any time. And he was working both sides of the plate. And, you know, sometimes you run into a guy that's just really hot. And so, but when I saw some of our swings, I'm like, man, we just look confused at the plate. But then sometimes, not very often, but sometimes you got to tip your hat to the pitcher. And I think that's one of those times. And so, you know, I felt a little better knowing how good that guy was that night because I watched it on Flow Sports. And for anyone that's watched Flow Sports, I felt like I was looking at I don't even know. It's hard to see a whole lot on that network when you're tracking a game and trying to kind of get a read and a feel for a pitcher. But yeah, the guy was really good.
Flow Sports, I thought it was kind of funny. Round Rock, they put out a tweet. One of the games that preceded an Arkansas game over the weekend, I think it might have been the Indiana-Louisiana Lafayette game that Matt Deggs later said was played in an ice storm. But anyway, there was a pop-up behind the plate, and the catcher went back and caught it. Round Rock tweeted out, "We know you can't see it, but he caught that." I thought that was a pretty good description of what we saw for most of the weekend on those telecasts. You know, one of the things that I've thought about a lot over the years, and I thought about it again since the games last weekend, is that one of the things that makes college baseball and college sports in general so great is that you can be a fan of the baseball team, a fan of the football team, a fan of the basketball team. If you're a fan of one, you're going to be a fan of all. And it's not necessarily that way in professional sports. You know, for instance, you know, if I'm a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, it doesn't mean I'm a fan of the Stars or the Mavericks or the Rangers. And where I'm going with this is that it has grown the fan base a lot, you know, the Razorback baseball fan base. But I also think sometimes, Bubba, that people want to view baseball through the lens that they view football, which is that you've got to win them all. And if you don't win them all, there's some sort of, you know, failure going on, or maybe even to a lesser extent, college basketball. And baseball is just a different sport. And you know this. One of the really big differences between professional baseball and college baseball is that in pro baseball, you get spring training to kind of work out some of the kinks. You get spring training to go get live at bats against pitchers, and you get spring training to learn how to build your lineup. And these first 4 weeks of the college baseball season, that's essentially what these coaches are doing. It would be like expecting the Yankees to look in mid-March like they're going to look in August. You just can't expect that. And I think that, people have to learn to appreciate what this time of the year is really about, learning the roster, learning how, the players look in different games. I mean, you've got freshmen out there who are playing in their first collegiate games ever, in games that actually matter and count toward the record. I just feel like you've been through spring training. And you've been through early season college baseball. You understand. And I wonder if you can add some insight into this, just the difference and the nuances between the two, and what this time is really about for college coaches.
I tell you what, Matt, that's actually an awesome point that you just made. And it is so much different in baseball. That's why spring training, is a month and a half long. It's because it takes a while for your body, your mind, and your everything to connect. I tell you what, I would start hitting early. I didn't like days off, and so I would get home at the end of the season, take a little bit of time off, try to put the bat down for a little bit, which was really hard to do. I'd start hitting early, and I hit all the way up through until spring training time. I would feel great. I'd get down there at spring training, have a few days of BP, go into scrimmage games, feeling okay. The first time I saw live pitching, I felt like a PO trying to hit. Sorry, no offense to any POs out there. Some of you guys rake. It's just different. It takes you a long time to put it all together. And that's why I say it a lot, and people kind of roll their eyes. The first part of this season, for Dave Van Horn and the staff, is really spring training. Now, the players, we want to win. We want to win every game. We hate to lose. I hate to lose more than anybody. But it really is spring training. This is just getting these guys ready for Kentucky in a couple of weeks and the SEC grind that we're going to have. So there's things that are going to happen right now that won't happen in a few weeks. And I think the fan base just has to really be patient and understand that. I mean, I said about Illinois State, we scored 11 runs on the weekend. If we face them mid-season, we're going to score way more than 11 runs. I mean, their staff was okay, but I mean, we'll score way more runs once everything starts to roll and click a little bit. Now, we're facing, everyone's like, well, why are we hitting our own pitching so good in scrimmages? Well, we know what our pitchers are going to do to us. Hitters have the advantage. When they see the same guy over and over, they file that away. And they know, okay, Jackson Wiggins is going to go here. He's going to get ahead here. With 2 strikes, he's going to go to this pitch. They know what our guys are going to do. And so it makes it way easier to ambush those guys or be ready for a pitch. Where you're facing another team, you've got scouting reports on them. I mean, the scouting reports that we have on these guys is really good. But until you step in the box and see that guy, it's different, and it's just kind of a learning curve. And, these guys, are feeling through it right now. And I think we're going to continue to get better. I think being back home at Baum Walker is great medicine for these guys. Plus the weather's starting to warm up. Anyone that's hit, it's no fun to hit when it's 38 degrees with a north wind blowing right in your face. I mean, it sucks as a hitter. So I'm not worried at all. These guys, what do we have? 20 at bats right now going into it with this 6 games into the season. Now, if we get up to 75 at bats and guys are still starting to have bad at bats and struggle, then it's time to, worry a little bit. But until you get 7,500 at bats in, I mean, none of this is just them getting prepared for that SEC gauntlet.
And in the non-conference, they haven't played any of these teams, and it's different when you get to conference season. You're seeing a lot of pitchers that you've seen in years previously. Strikeouts were the story in Round Rock. On Friday, Arkansas beat Indiana 5-2. Connor Nolan and Cole Ramage combined to strike out the Hoosiers 16 times in that game. Connor had 10 strikeouts. That was one shy of a career high. And then on day 3, it was the other way around. Arkansas striking out at the plate, struck out 15 times against Stanford, lost that game 5-0, left the bases loaded a couple of times, including in the 9th inning when they loaded them with no outs. And then against Louisiana Lafayette, on Sunday night, the Razorbacks struck out 13 more times, but they were able to come away with a 6-4 victory. The hitting struggles, Bubba, and the strikeouts in particular, why do you think we're seeing so many strikeouts from the Razorbacks, or at least why we saw so many on Sunday? it seemed to me like in the first weekend, strikeouts weren't really that big of an issue, that they weren't chasing the pitches outside the zone. Do you feel like they were pressing? Was it a matter of it being just a bad day at the plate? And I wonder, do you think that whenever, say, one player is struggling with strikeouts or poor hitting, does that become contagious throughout the team?
Absolutely, Matt. It's contagious. Good hitting is contagious, but also bad hitting is when guys start to struggle, everyone starts to press a little bit. When you're hitting the ball, there's a fight at the bat rack. Everyone wants to hit. They can't wait to get up to the plate. When you're struggling, everyone wants to be that guy to get things turned around, to do what Jalen did, hit the 3-run homer. And then you start overswinging, you start chasing pitches out of the zone. And so I think that's been something that you've seen out of some of the hitters. But I'm going to go back to the Stanford game, the 15 strikeouts. Yeah, that's a big number. But that guy was really good. And he did a great job tunneling his pitches. He would throw that breaking ball and he'd tunnel that high fastball just at the top of the zone off of that. So, I'm going to say we tip our hat to that guy. But the starter for Louisiana, I don't know why we didn't hit him. He had a breaking ball down and away. He kept throwing to righties that we were chasing. Don't know why we didn't see it. I didn't know if there was some deception there. It looked like he threw across his body a little bit. So maybe there was it was hard to pick up the ball. Not real sure there. We swung over the top of a lot of breaking balls, but I can't explain that, but I do know that, to your point about the hitting part of it, once a few guys get rolling, I think this thing's going to start to roll, and we'll get this thing clicking. It's I do know that Nate Thompson sent something out, and I noticed several guys choking up, which I love to see. Nate Thompson tweeted something out, a week and a half or so ago about elite hitters choke up. And I thought that was awesome. It showed a picture of Robert Moore choking up at the plate. Man, there's nothing wrong with that. Barry Bonds used to choke up back in the day. I think he hit 73 home runs, had a little help from vitamins, but he still choked up. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think every once in a while it's okay. Choke up, kind of flip the field, protect the back of the plate. I thought Kendall Diggs had a great at bat where he kind of flipped the field. They were shifting on all the lefties. Kendall just let that ball get deep, just hit a ground ball to the left side. Now, I'm not a big fan of hitting a ground ball to the left side, but hey, if they're going to shift over, get your hands inside the ball and just poke it to the left side. I thought that was a great at bat for a freshman. And ABs like that, I mean, those things are contagious.
I thought you could kind of see that in the late innings, and it wasn't the hits that got Arkansas going. It was a couple of walks by Chris Lanzilli and Jace Borfin that set up Battles for that big home run in the 8th inning. But then after Battles hits the home run, they come back in the 9th inning. Zach Gregory gets on. He moves around the bases. Robert Moore scores him with a double. I think someone else got on after Moore did. It looked like that home run by Battles kind of maybe loosened the team up there toward the end.
I think so. But you just nailed it right there, Matt. The key were the Lanzilli walk. The inning led off. Michael Turner, I believe he rolled over one to first base, lead off out. But then you had a walk. And then Borfin had a really good at bat. I want to say he took a 3-2 pitch inside to draw a walk, borderline pitch, but he drew a walk. Without those two guys on base, I mean, that's called winning pitches right there. You win those pitches and you end up on first base. It enables Battles to do what he did. But, I don't want to talk about a bunch of negatives, but some of the negatives, the little things that stand out to me, you go back to the Stanford game, we get in that 9th inning, we got a freshman closer coming in, and you could tell he was nervous. He was overthrowing. He was leaving everything up high. We get a leadoff walk, a base hit by Lanzilli. Then we get a 4-pitch walk, and look, I love Braden Webb. I love him to death. We're down 5-0. He swings at a first pitch fastball up and in and dribbles it back to the pitcher. And, that's a guy just trying to do too much. When you get a freshman on the mound, and I'm not a big fan of the take sign. I'll go a whole season and give a couple take signs, but right there, you got to take. Even if you hit a home run, who cares? You're still down 5-4. Make that guy throw a strike right there. So you swing a pitch up and in, you dribble it back to the pitcher, then he settles down a little bit and ultimately gets out of the inning. Those are the at-bats that I'm not a big fan of. But, I agree. I think as we went on into the weekend, I think the Jalen Battles things, I wish we could have played another game after that. I think you'd have seen a different offense, because I really think it was just a big collective sigh of relief. Okay, now let's let's go to work. And so hopefully that'll carry over into this weekend.
You and I were talking earlier this week, and I wanted to go back to Kendall Diggs at bat because I thought that was one of the best at bats I saw all weekend. It's interesting to me, number one, that Matt Deggs and Lafayette have the shift on against a hitter who's had 2 career at bats. I don't know where they get their metrics, to know that he's going to pull the ball, but the shift is on. You said he sees a ball deep into the zone, puts it into the opposite field. And, one of the things you told me was that was really the type of at bat that you wish the players would have had, more of throughout the weekend.
Right. I mean, it's just, it's different. Like back when Big Papi, we can use Big Papi for an example. They would shift way over. Papi could bunt. And every once in a while, Big Papi would lay down a bunt. And everyone would be, well, even though he bunted and got on first base, the defense won because now he's at first base. It takes a lot of hits to score him from first. Big Papi's, he can't run out of sight in a day. So it's hard. They want Papi swinging for the fence to take a chance, but these guys are athletic and they're, we're talking, that's apples and oranges right there. Kendall Diggs, what he did was awesome. And now look, if you're facing a righty that's a glove side guy that's throwing fastballs in, cutters in, and you're a lefty, it's really hard to get your hands inside the ball and hit it to the left side. I mean, it's hard to do. So, I mean, there's sometimes you can't do it. You just got to try to drive it through or over the shift. But I see a lot of shifts and then I see a fastball away and I'm thinking, okay, wait, let's go. Let's drive that ball to left center. But like I said, Matt, it's early in the season. But I really did like Kendall's at bat right there. But there's a time to hit a ground ball left side and beat the shift. There's a time to play pepper with a scoreboard in right field. And I think these guys are smart enough to know when to do which.
They made a change in the last game. They moved Zach Gregory to the leadoff position and took Peyton Stovall out. Michael Turner played first base. I think Stovall is going to continue to play first base for them. I think back to 2 years ago, whenever Dave Van Horn took Casey Martin out after he had struggled down in Houston and said, I'm just going to let him watch the game for, a day or two. And then before the season shut down, Casey Martin came back and he was hitting a lot better. And I think Van Horn really believes that sometimes it's good for players just to be able to take a day off, sit back, watch what others are doing, and maybe it helps them refocus mentally. Stovall's struggling, 136. We know he's a better hitter than that. We saw it during the fall. We saw it during preseason practice. But back to Gregory going to the leadoff position, it wouldn't surprise me if we see that stick for a little bit, assuming that Zach's going to stay in the lineup. He does such a good job of taking walks. Last year, it was like he was a magnet at the plate. He got hit by a ton of pitches. Not a bad hitter. I think that this might be a good move for this team. And I'll be interested to see how long they stick with it and whether or not it starts to pay dividends for them in the weeks to come.
Well, he's leading the team in on base percentage, and that's what you want out of your leadoff guy. As a team, our own base percentage is 326. He's at 421, so he's leading the team in that category, and he constantly puts together good at bats. He doesn't just give away an at bat. I call it giving away at bat. If you go up there and roll over the first pitch, you swinging a pitcher's pitch down and away, you dribble it to the right side. You kind of gave away that at bat. You don't see Zach do that. He grinds out at bats, makes the pitcher work. And if he strikes him out, he strikes him out, but he's not going to strike him out on 3 pitches. It's going to take him 5 or 6 pitches to strike him out. That gives everyone else behind him a chance to see what that guy's got. So if he stays in the leadoff spot for a while, hey, I'm all for that. He's not your prototypical leadoff guy as far as speed and stealing bases and all that, but he finds a way to get on base. And I like Peyton sitting out a game. I really do. And, Dave talks about it all the time. It helps you. If you're sitting there, you can slow the game down. And that's a big part of it. Early on, Peyton wasn't getting hits against Illinois State, but he was having quality at bats. He was laying off of borderline pitches. He just wasn't getting hits. I think he started to press a little bit, swinging some first pitches out of the zone. That's not his strength. Start chasing some up out of the zone. I think so. Him sitting an inning, and I don't know, Dave may drop him down in the lineup, maybe move him to 9-hole for a while just to take a little pressure off of him. At the end of the day, Peyton's going to be right in the mix because the kid can hit. I mean, I've watched him hit, and I've seen videos on him. The kid can hit. He just needs to relax and do it. But But when you're sitting there, Matt, watching the games, you can relax, you can slow the game down a little bit. We talk about things that hitters can do when they're struggling. It's really just basic, just win pitches, and it's a simple philosophy. You go up there and you try to win every pitch. If you take a fastball down and away on the edge of the plate, you won that pitch because you can't hit that pitch anyway. A first pitch slider, if you take that down and away, you won that pitch. You get a first pitch fastball and you crush it right at somebody, you won that pitch. Even though it's an out, you won the pitch. And I think when you start winning pitches, it takes the pressure off. I got to get a hit. I got to get on. I got to do this. It makes it makes you think less because it's you against that pitcher. You're trying to win that pitch. And it makes everything else go away. So it eliminates a lot of the thinking of, I'm 0 for this or I'm 0 for that. No. I'm trying to win this pitch. And it'll if guys will do that, you'll start to see them have a lot more success. And they're probably already doing it. I mean, shoot, Nate's been around a long time. Nate knows how to teach hitting. And these guys all know their swings and their strengths and weaknesses. So, I'm not telling them that nothing they've never heard. It's just a simple philosophy. Sometimes you get away from it though, and you got to get back to the basics.
I agree with you about Stovall going to the 9-hole, by the way. I think that we've seen that a lot from Van Horn, where if he thinks he's got 2 leadoff type hitters, he'll stack them at 9 and 1 to see what the 2, 3, 4 hitters can do with them if they get on base. One more note from Round Rock as we look back at hitting. I was impressed with the at-bats that Michael Turner had. He was the only Razorback who had a hit in all 3 games. And in that first game against Indiana, Bubba, had it not been for a stiff, probably 25-mile-an-hour wind blowing in from center field, he'd have 1, maybe 2 home runs. He had an RBI triple early in that game that was, big for the team. I think it gave him a 2-0 lead. But I think on most days that would have been a home run. And then a flyout that he had early in the game, no doubt it would have been a home run on a normal day.
Oh, you're right. I was joking with him about speed kills. He's not the first one you would expect to hit a triple. He's had a little bit of a bad hammy, and so you wouldn't expect him to hit a triple. And then later against, I think it was Louisiana Lafayette, he had an infield hit. But yeah, you know what? He's had some good at bats, and now he struggled against against the lefty. He struggled against the lefty, but everyone did. I mean, the lefty pitched him really tough.
And he's a good pitcher. I think that's important to mention, the success that he's had. He pitched in the College World Series last year, Bubba, 5 1/3 innings against Vanderbilt and had them in position to win that game. It was Stanford's bullpen that let him down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I forgot about that, Matt. The guy, and he's tough on lefties. He's really tough on lefties, that Quinn Matthews is. But you're right. Other than that, the rest of the weekend, he's consistently had good at bats, and I like to see that out of him. Plus, he threw out a couple of runners. I thought he looked good behind the plate. So he's a huge addition to this lineup and this roster.
The Whole Hog Baseball Podcast is sponsored by Massage Envy, voted the best day spa and best massage in all of Northwest Arkansas. Visit Mike and his staff in Tuscany Square at 2603 West Pleasant Grove Road in Rogers, or in Fayetteville at 3557 North Shiloh Drive. Massage Envy has services for everyone. MassageEnvy.com.
Massage Envy with clinics in Rogers and Fayetteville has been awarded Northwest Arkansas's best day spa and best massage. One of the reasons is our care for athletes, both serious and recreational. We now offer rapid tension relief sessions using a high caliber vibrating tool and total body stretch sessions like the ones used by the PGA. Both of these new services can be combined with the always popular deep muscle treatment. So whether you compete or just want to relax, there is no place better than Massage Envy.
WholeHogSports.com has the largest, most experienced staff of reporters covering sports in Arkansas. Football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, and more. You'll find it at WholeHogSports.com. The website includes up-to-minute news, daily commentaries, and award-winning photography from the staffs of Hogs Illustrated and the Democrat Gazette. For subscriptions, call 1-800-757-6277. That's 1-800-757-6277. Or visit us online today, WholeHogSports.com.
You know it never goes out of style, a great burger. And for a long time now, the best burgers around have been made at CJ's Butcher Boy. I've been stopping at their Russellville location for years to enjoy a double with bacon, cheese, and all the fixins. Well, the fries are always made fresh, and their shakes are made with real premium ice cream. And now that CJ's Butcher Boy has a Fayetteville location too on Weddington, you can bet I'll be there a lot more. CJ's Butcher Boy in Russellville and Fayetteville. When all you do are burgers, they have to be the best.
Welcome back to the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast. Now let's look at this week in the SEC, presented by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers.
Not a whole lot of things unexpected happened in the SEC last week. Really, the series worth watching was Alabama at Texas. Alabama not really picked to do real well in the SEC this year, but they went to Austin and played the Longhorns really competitively. They were swept, but they lost games 1-0, 2-0, and 6-1 in the finale. Alabama was right there with a chance to potentially win the series, if not have a 1-1 series going into the final game. Another series that drew a lot of headlines was Tennessee sweeping Iona in Knoxville. Tennessee won the 3 games by a combined score 68-3. And on Sunday, they only played 7 innings. There's a lot of people who are wondering why Tennessee is not higher in the rankings. I think it might be because of the competition they played. Keep in mind that Iona, before they had come to Tennessee, they had lost to Old Dominion by scores of 19-1 and 24-0 the week before. So obviously some pitching issues going on there with Iona. Tennessee's also beaten Georgia Southern this year, Tennessee Tech, and then they beat East Tennessee State in the midweek this week. Tennessee right now outscoring its opponents for the season 121-8. They've been pretty impressive offensively, but we'll see what it looks like whenever they play better competition. That begins this weekend. Some games to watch around the SEC this weekend. Tennessee and LSU are at the College Classic in Houston. They're going to play the same 3 teams, both of them will, that Arkansas played when they went to Houston and were swept in 2020. Tennessee and LSU will both play Oklahoma. They will both play Baylor. And the games that I think a lot of people will be interested to watch, Bubba, is that they will both play Texas in Houston. Texas, I think a lot of people think they have the best pitching staff in the country. LSU and Tennessee, at least through the first couple of weeks, have shown that they've got 2 of the better offenses. That's going to be a really interesting matchup.
I think so. And you're looking at, you look at the runs scored. So Tennessee's averaging 15 runs per game. Of course, that's kind of skewed because of the Iona scores 27, 29, and 12. LSU's averaging 12 runs a game. So it'll give us a chance to see how good those offenses really are. I don't think they've seen the competition, or I know they haven't seen the competition the Razorbacks have, but they can swing it. Vitello's team's always going to be a team that's going to be a team that can score runs. They're pretty good at adapting to the pitcher. So I'm really looking forward to the Tennessee-Texas matchup. I think it's going to be a really good game. And that Texas, their staff from top to bottom is good. They got arms out of the bullpen. They got some guys that can throw it. So that's going to be a fun matchup. I'm looking forward to that. But I think it's still so early, Matt, to read a lot into this. And I look at some of the other runs scored. Ole Miss is averaging 11 runs a game. Mississippi State, 7. Vandy's averaging 6. Razorbacks are averaging 3.6. I rounded ours up. You can round it up to 4 since I've got Razorback goggles on. But it's just so early to put a lot into that. But you look at some of the midweek scores. I don't know if you saw some of yesterday's scores. Kentucky lost to Western Kentucky 7-5 on a Tuesday night game. Alabama lost to UT Martin 7-6. Mississippi State squeaked by Grambling 2-1. Vanderbilt over Central Arkansas 5-2. There were some really close games yesterday in midweek games. That just goes to show you that anything can happen right now in college baseball. It's still early on.
That Tennessee-Texas game, by the way, I've read a lot of online chatter from Razorback fans. Who do we root for? There's that kind of growing animosity, I think, between Arkansas and Tennessee, at least online, based on the way their games went last year. I think a lot of people are torn. Do we root for the Longhorns like we've been trained not to do forever, or do we root for do we root for Tennessee in the SEC team, or maybe you root for a scoreless 20-inning game that's called because they both run out of pitchers? I don't know how the Razorback fans will handle that. Some other games this weekend. Ole Miss is at Central Florida, kind of an intriguing matchup there. UCF in the offseason, they got John Rice Plumlee, who had been at Ole Miss for the last few years, so he'll play his old teammates. Vanderbilt, they get to take a vacation out to Hawaii this weekend. They'll play the Rainbow Warriors 3 times in Honolulu. Interesting matchup. Florida and Miami, always a good matchup. TCU is at Kentucky. And then a top 25 matchup, you've got Georgia at Georgia Tech. Those games will be played in Atlanta. Georgia's number 13 this week. Georgia Tech is number 20. And then the matchup that I think is always kind of neat, Bubba, is you've got South Carolina and Clemson. And every year they play 3 games. They play once in Columbia, they play once in Clemson, and they play once at a minor league park in that state. That's a really neat setup.
No, that will be good. It's fun every year to see that. And so, it's going to be a fun weekend to watch college baseball. And I think it's going to help, Matt. It's going to help us kind of get an idea of some of these other teams and just kind of how good they are. Even though I keep saying it's early on, it's a good test for some of these squads just to kind of see. I always like to stack us up against, the rest of the SEC early on just to kind of see where we're at. And then, but man, nothing matters, for a couple more weeks. We got 2 weeks to get ready for SEC play. And then big boy baseball starts.
One other matchup this weekend, Mississippi State goes to New Orleans to play Tulane. Tulane just outside the top 25 this week. They're 7-1, and they've got a series win already over Louisiana Tech in Ruston. They beat the Bulldogs 4-1 and 13-5 after losing the series opener 6-1. We've seen what Louisiana Tech has done to some SEC teams, and with the way that Mississippi State has struggled this year, that's a really interesting series to watch. In the top 25 this week, the SEC's got 8 teams. Ole Miss moved up to number 2 after a 6-0 start. They're the highest ranked SEC team behind Texas. Vanderbilt fell to number 5. They're 5-2. Arkansas fell to number 6. LSU's number 7. Tennessee is number 11 in the coaches poll. Georgia's number 13. Mississippi State is 15. And Florida fell to number 16 after that early season funk that included a series loss to Liberty. Liberty, by the way, moved into the top 25. The SEC report is brought to you by CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers. They're the best burgers in 2 towns. Visit the original at 2803 North Arkansas Avenue in Russellville, or the newest location at 3484 West Weddington Drive in Fayetteville, just minutes from Baum-Walker Stadium. Skip the line and order online or download the app in your app store. CJ's Butcher Boy Burgers, when all you do are burgers, they have to be the best. And Bubba, going back to Round Rock, I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper now on Arkansas's pitching. We talked a lot about hitting in the first segment, but the pitching, I thought, outside of the 2 1/3 innings that Hagen Smith struggled early in the game against Stanford, for the most part, I thought the pitching was really good again this weekend. I've been impressed overall, I think, with the pitching for the first 2 weeks. Sometimes you see pitchers struggle due to cold weather, due to other circumstances. But for the most part, Arkansas, they've got a 2.5 ERA. Their bullpen has got a 2.28 ERA in 23 2/3 innings. And this has been the type of pitching that keeps you in games. If they had a little bit better offense, it wouldn't be any surprise to see this team be 6-0 right now.
No, I think so. And you look at the ERA, the collective ERA is 2.50, opponents hitting 2.28 against our staff. For all the talk of the offense, how good it's going to carry us early on, hey, hats off to the pitchers. They're doing a great job. Really impressed with Connor Nolan Friday. Connor looked great, 6 innings, struck out 10, walked 2s, all it just that's Connor Nolan. That's our Friday night Connor Nolan. He did a great job mixing in that 2-seam, that slider cutter combo. Really kept Indiana off pace and just did a great job. And then Cole Ramage coming in closing it out was just lights out. 3 innings, 6 Ks. I mean, just had those guys baffled. And so it's really good to see that. And honestly, Hagen Smith, man, that's a big game for a freshman. Top 5 matchup. I think he's just a little hyped up. He was rushing a little bit. He's leaving some balls arm side up in the zone. And couldn't land that changeup. That's still his best pitch. So, they really just set on the fastball. And I will say one thing that I don't like, Matt, he gave up a couple 0-2 hits.
Mhm.
When your stuff is as good as Hagen Smith. Now, would that have changed the outcome? Who knows? But he did give up 2 0-2 hits on fastballs that are way too hittable. I'd like to see him when your stuff's that good, man. Bounce a slider, bounce a change, elevate a fastball. You can hit 95, run a fastball up in the zone and try to get a chase. I don't know. I'm old school though, and it goes back to the fact back in the day, and I've told you this before. Our pitchers used to get fined if you gave up an 0-2 hit, it was a fine. And you don't make a lot of money in the minor leagues, and so when you're giving up $25 for giving up an 0-2 hit, if there's runners in scoring position, that fine got bigger. So you just didn't want that to happen. And I hate to see that out of Hagen, but I think he was just a little too hyped up, rushing a little bit. I think you're going to see a different pitch when he goes out there this weekend, though. I think he's going to be everything that we want him to be. A lot of these early on, Matt, it's a learning experience for him. It's second college start against a top 5 opponent. And so I still think he's got great stuff, and he's going to be fine.
Well, and he ran into a Stanford lineup that had just played Indiana. I mean, they hadn't been off the field 30 minutes from their Indiana game. They had 14 hits in that Indiana game, and you could tell the hitters were still locked in when they faced Arkansas. They ended up with 13 hits in that game. Had it not been for a lot of stranded runners in scoring position, Stanford probably would have blown Arkansas out of the water.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate to agree with you there, but you're right. But overall, the pitching was great. I was real impressed with Isaac Brackett. He came in a bases loaded situation and made some really good pitches with that slider. Pitched out of a really tough jam that things could have gotten out of hand in a hurry right there. So he looked good. Heston Toll, same thing, came in and had 3 really good innings. Elijah Tress threw an inning. Miller Plyman, got to see him back out there on the mound, but I'll tell you who else really impressed me was Jackson Wiggins. He continues to throw the ball really well, threw great against Lafayette. His fastball was on. He was spotting it in and out of the zone, mixed in some sliders and a few changeups, but boy, it looked like to me, he really had his fastball going. Once again, when you're watching on Flow Network, it's really hard to tell. But the reaction of the hitters, he had a lot of those guys locked up, and it just looked like he was just easy power with that fastball throwing it by him.
I think back to what I was saying a minute ago, though, the fact that Stanford did strand so many in scoring position and that the bullpen was able to keep the game, relatively within striking distance into the late innings, I think that says something about the way the relief pitchers pitched. We get so enamored with the fastball and blowing it by people and, runners never getting on base that sometimes it's easy to forget that it's really hard to go an inning without a runner getting on base. A ball gets away from you, you hit him, you might walk a guy, you give up a hit because a guy just has a good at bat and he's sitting on whatever pitch you're throwing. They were able to work around base runners really well. And so I thought that was a good sign that these pitchers, even though they're giving up some hits, they're giving up some walks, they're able to keep their composure and pitch around that. One of the runs that Stanford scored against Arkansas's bullpen in that game was due to an error by Caden Wallace. And so really you've got 1 earned run that you gave up over 6 2/3 innings against a really hot lineup, a really good team. I thought that was a good showing for the bullpen.
I think so. And, I hope we get a chance to play them somewhere down the road. Again, hopefully College World Series championship game. It'd be nice to play Stanford again, but you're right. There's a lot of positives to take from it. Really been impressed. And what's great, Matt, is there's still some guys down there we still haven't seen. We still haven't seen Mark Adamiak. Austin Ledbetter, still haven't seen him. Nick Moulton, hadn't seen him. I'm hoping we get to see these guys this weekend, or it's sometime during the week or over the weekend, just because there's still some weapons down there that we haven't got to use. Evan Gray's another one, haven't got to see him yet. So I'm still excited about the opportunity and look, if the pitching staff can keep doing what it's doing, keep us in this range that they are right now, we're going to win a lot of games because this offense is going to get clicking. I promise you. What is it, March 2nd? Mm-hmm. I don't even know what the date is. It doesn't matter. It's early March, and so we're going to get this thing rolling.
Now, full disclosure, we're recording this before the Arkansas-Omaha game on Wednesday night. Mark Adamiak is supposed to throw that game. Some of you will hear the podcast before that. Some of you will hear it afterward. But probably we'll see some of those pitchers that you mentioned during the Omaha game tonight. Cole Ramage, what can we say about him that we haven't said the past 2 weeks? I think it's been really impressive. Not just the fact, and I go back to what I said last week. It's not just that he pitched really well his first time out, had 6 strikeouts against Indiana. It's the fact that he came back in against Lafayette in a really tough situation, 2 runners on, nobody out, inherits a 2-0 count from Nick Griffin, ends up walking that guy because it's cold and throws a couple of pitches out of the zone, but then gets a ground ball, and then gets the line drive, kind of a, I don't know if it was a weak hit line drive. Again, it's hard to tell from the broadcast, but Jalen Battles makes the play on it. The second baseman overruns, can't get back to second. It's an easy double play to end the game. Ramage is getting the job done for this bullpen, and I'm really impressed with the fact that he's doing it multiple times a weekend.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's awesome that he came to Dave on Sunday and said, "Hey, I'm ready. You know, if you need me, I'm out there. I'm ready." And that's what you want. That's the veteran leadership you want out of that bullpen. And so, yeah, really good to see him doing what he's doing. And you know, he's making guys look really bad. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's got that breaking ball going. He can sneak that fastball by you. You know, we all know about his changeup. I mean, he's just coming in, but in a pressure situation like that, you know, in a cold game, and the temperature had gotten cold. I want to say it was down to 35, 36 degrees with a north wind. You know, he's sitting out there for 9 innings. I mean, that's not an easy ask out of a guy to do. And, you know, come in that situation, especially with a 2-0 count, knowing that there's a lot of pressure on the line right there, and he doesn't let it phase him. And that goes back to, look, you know, when you struggle, and Cole struggled last year, you know, you learn a lot. You learn more from struggling than you do from having success. I mean, every time you go out there and you fail, you get better. And I think he learned a lot last year and learned how to deal with that. And I think he's worked really hard. And boy, I'm so excited and so happy for him to have this success early on that he's having right now.
He told Dave Van Horn before the Louisiana Lafayette game, said that I'm a 9 out of 10 in terms of how good I feel going into this game. And they said that's one of the reasons that they felt comfortable going to him. I don't know if he's their closer. I mean, you know, this time last year, I think we all thought Jackson Wiggins was their closer. These roles can evolve. And so it'll be interesting to see how Cole Ramage's role evolves. He's not your prototypical closer by any means. Now, neither was Kevin Kopps, although Kopps had that cutter that, you know, people couldn't touch. And so instead of, you know, powering it by you with a fastball, it was more, you know, beating you with deception that he was doing. And talking about not being prototypical, Connor Nolan's not your prototypical Friday night guy in the SEC. I mean, he's not Kamar Rocker. He's not Isaiah Campbell. He's not going to run it up to 97, 98 miles an hour. But what I think you're seeing from him, Bubba, is outside of that first inning when it looked like nerves got a little bit to him in the Illinois State game, he had the balk, you know, had the roll that probably caused the new rule that caused the balk in that game that contributed to one of those runs. This is looking like the Connor Nolan that I saw toward the end of 2019. And I think a lot of people forget too that he was pitching really well early in 2020. He had a career high 11 strikeouts in the 2020 season opener against Eastern Illinois, pitched well against Gonzaga. He was pitching well against OU in Houston until he had the elbow strain that, you know, caused him to come out. I think they might have scored a run or hit a home run against him, something like that in the final inning that he pitched there. But this is the Connor Nolan that I've really been expecting to see for the last couple of years. I know he had some injuries last year that contributed to how he pitched, but it looks like he's really back to the type of pitcher that we were seeing late in 2019 and in those 3 weeks before the 2020 season got shut down.
Absolutely. And here's what's awesome about Connor Nolan. He pitches with the defense we have. Connor Nolan's the perfect guy on the bump because look, if he struck out 10 against Indiana, he's usually not going to strike out 10, but he's going to get a whole lot of outs. And Connor's a guy, if there's a runner at third base, less than 2 outs, and he needs to strike somebody out, he can get that strikeout. Like I said, the 2-seamer, the cutter, the slider, he can even ride a fastball at the top of the zone if he needs to. He can get that strikeout. But Connor, he doesn't care about strikeouts. He cares about outs. You get that runner at first base, run a 2-seamer in on a righty, maybe run a little 2-seamer away from lefty, get that ground ball, 6-4-3, 4-6-3, doesn't matter. Let the defense work for him. And I think he's the perfect pitcher for this defense that we have. And I think he's going to continue to get outs that way. And whether it be a strikeout, ground out double play. It doesn't matter. Outs are outs, and that's what Hobbs and Van Horn really like to see, and that's what I like to see.
Coming up, we're going to look at Arkansas's series against Southeastern Louisiana this weekend. This is the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast.
Massage Envy has been voted the best day spa and best massage in all of Northwest Arkansas. Great therapists and estheticians go along with a new service that I am truly excited about. Rapid Tension Relief uses a special tool that will melt the tension and soreness away. Trust me, you will not be disappointed in the results. I highly recommend this feature along with a total body stretch assisted stretch program. Whether you are competing at a high level or just want to relax, these services are for everyone. Massage, rapid tension relief, total body stretch, deep muscle treatment massage, you choose. Or you can try any combination of those. So the next time you're feeling tight, make sure to call my friends at Massage Envy.
Want more coverage of your home team? Download the Whole Hog Sports Video on Demand app. Check out the Fan Zone and get up-to-the-minute videos, podcasts, and features on football, basketball, baseball, recruiting, and more. Search for Whole Hog Sports on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire at home. And take it with you on the go by downloading it for your mobile device in your app store. The Whole Hog Sports Video on Demand app. Get it today.
Grease Pig, this is Mike.
Coming in hot, so I can just stay in my vehicle during my oil change?
That's right. The Grease Pig wants to help keep you safe, so now you can stay in your vehicle during your oil change.
These guys are working like a pit crew.
That's part of our 17-point inspection, where we check your belts and hoses, we check and fill all your fluids, and offer full repair on all vehicles. And of course, we use Castrol products.
Why do I smoke coffee?
You know our waiting room is still open.
And give up front row seats to my own oil change? No, thank you. You're doing awesome. Mike, I think I'm making them uncomfortable.
Get into the Grease Pig, your local automotive specialist for over 20 years.
Now let's take a look at the week ahead, presented by Grease Pig.
Arkansas is back at Baum-Walker Stadium this weekend. They will play Southeastern Louisiana 3 times beginning Friday at 3 p.m. Other game times are scheduled Saturday for 2 and Sunday for 1. Friday and Saturday are supposed to be nice days. There is a threat of storms in Fayetteville on Sunday, so might be worth watching if they decide to schedule a doubleheader on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. Southeastern Louisiana entering Wednesday night has a record of 3-5 overall. They're going to play at they will host Louisiana Tech Wednesday night, and then they'll make the trip to Fayetteville on Thursday for the 3-game series. Southeastern Louisiana is one of the favorites to win the Southland Conference this season. The week ahead is brought to you by the Grease Pig. For 20 years, they have specialized in serving U of A students, faculty, and staff with 2 locations in Fayetteville on College Avenue and MLK Boulevard. The Grease Pig has experience for all your repair needs and, of course, complete service oil changes staffed with ASE certified master technicians. They also provide tires and alignment services at their location on College Avenue. The Grease Pig, it's all about taking care of you, and they're a proud supporter of the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast. Now, a couple of weeks ago on the Whole Hog Baseball Podcast, we had Joe Healy from Baseball America on, and he gave us a preview of all of the Razorbacks non-conference teams during the early part of the season. And I want to replay what he had to say about Southeastern Louisiana. This will start with my question to Joe about the Lions.
With Southeastern Louisiana, they've been a really consistent program there. And like I said, I think they are best positioned to be the team that runs that league, at least as long as that league exists in its current iteration. They too are a team that really kind of likes to make things happen. They have a couple of guys in Evan Keller in the lineup and Preston Faulkner in the lineup, I think, that are going to make them go. Keller's a little bit of a speed guy. I think 19 stolen bases last year. He's going to really try to make things happen. They lost a couple of guys. Tyler Fink was a guy who matriculated out of the program. They also lost Jacob Burke, a transfer who ended up at Miami, who are also kinds of those catalyst types in the lineup. But Preston Faulkner is kind of your typical, it's a stocky, I think it's 6'1", 230, just a real horse of a power hitter. He's going to be the guy in the middle lineup that's going to make them go. But the thing they really hang their hat on is the 1-2 punch in the rotation. Brennan Stuprich and Will Kinsler are both all conference type pitchers last year. Stuprich's numbers in particular are really, really good. If they are as good as they can be, those two guys I think are going to be excellent. So again, against a team like Arkansas, that's always the question is, okay, they really like those two guys in the front of the rotation, but how well do they throw against a lineup as good as Arkansas? And that will continue to be the question. But this is another team that is going to show up in Fayetteville and is going to expect to compete and expect to win games there. And so they're certainly not going to be a group that's going to roll over.
It was Joe Healy of Baseball America. As we said, Southeastern Louisiana comes into this series. They're 3-5 pending the game that they're going to play against Louisiana Tech on Wednesday night. They opened the season with a series win over Southern Illinois Edwardsville, beat them 1-0 and 4-3 before losing 10-3 in the finale. They lost to Louisiana Lafayette in a midweek. They went to Birmingham last weekend, won the opener 7-4 before losing the final two games to lose that series. They lost to Tulane 23-1 on Tuesday night, and then they've got another real good offense coming in against Louisiana Tech. But we heard him talk about the Southland Conference and how that's a conference that I think kind of gets overlooked sometimes. I mentioned that Dave Van Horn and Mike Bianco and Jim Wells, they all came out of that conference. Many other head coaches who have gone to the SEC have come out of there. This is one of those series that's just kind of interesting because I think the baseball that's played in the Southland is probably some of the better mid-major baseball out there. Now, you expect Arkansas to win the series, but, given this team's track record, they're, an NCAA tournament team, it seems like every 2 to 4 years. This is an interesting series for Arkansas, and it's also one of those series that I think you can look back on later in the season, kind of like we did with the SEMO series a year ago, where maybe this is a team that's getting into a regional. Heck, maybe they come back to Baum-Walker Stadium in June as a 4 seed.
Hey, you never know, Matt. And the thing about the Southland Conference, those teams always seem to hit. And when they come in here, they're not scared at all. They come in here with a little bit of confidence, and they expect to come in here and win. And that's that's the thing about Southeastern Louisiana. They're gonna be a team that hits the ball. You look at their stats right now, and they're scuffing a little bit as a team. They're only hitting 210 as a team, but they're a team that's got guys that can swing it. They're a little bit top heavy in their lineup right now. The lower half's not really doing a whole lot, but I tell you what, they're going to come in here with confidence and like I said, expect to win. And in the game of baseball, that's 90% mental. Just the fact that you're coming in here and you expect to win says a whole lot.
Now, the weather is supposed to be really good for the first 2 days, and I'm not just talking about no rain. It's supposed to be warm temperatures. We're probably going to have the winds out of the southwest, which is going to be blowing out to left field at Baum-Walker Stadium. As a hitter, this is going to be a completely different feel, I think, for the Razorbacks than anything that they've faced the first 2 weeks. Last week when they were in Round Rock, it was that north wind like you were talking about that was blowing straight into their faces. And then in the first week, it seemed like the wind was different every single day, but it was never really advantageous for the hitters. It was always a wind that was knocking fly balls down. This could be the weekend, I feel like, Bubba, where you could really see this offense bust out, hit some home runs. Maybe this is the type of weather that this offense is built for.
I think so, Matt. And, you hate to say, well, the wind was blowing in, and it was cold and, that's why we didn't hit well because, both teams had to hit in it, obviously. But there is no doubt that it does play, it affects a hitter. And so you get here, the weather's going to be warm, different wind. It's way more conducive to our hitters in the lineup because you already alluded to it earlier. We hit several balls deep in the outfield that on most days are home runs. And so I think it really changes. It really changes the way we approach our bats. And I just think it's just a mental lift for us knowing, we're back here at Baum Stadium. It's warm. Ball's going to be flying a little bit. So get up there, get a good pitch and cut it loose.
I think warmer weather can help defenders too. I was a little surprised in Round Rock to see Caden Wallace, who I think is a really good defensive third baseman, have 3 errors down there. It was a little bit of hit or miss defensively. You had the errors by Caden. I think that they led to a couple of unearned runs, but then there was also a lot of really good defensively, especially the double plays. Arkansas turned 7 double plays in that series, and entering the game against Omaha tonight, Bubba, they've got 9 double plays this year. That's an average of about 1.5 per game, and that leads college baseball.
Well, and on the airs, I know Jalen Battles referred to it. It was a fast track. The infield was really fast and kind of choppy and bumpy. So, that makes it tough for guys. It really does. You get a few in between hops, get a few weird hops, but the double play ball for us has been huge this year. And one thing that I always go back and look at, what if this would have happened? What if this would have happened? You look at the reason the double play is so important. You look at the Louisiana Lafayette game, Jackson Wiggins was the leadoff guy. All right. Next guy hits what really is normally with this middle infield, a routine double play ball, ground ball to Jalen Battles, flips it to Robert. I don't think Robert rushes, though. I think it just slipped out of his hand and he threw the ball up the baseline. Didn't get the double play. It should have cleared the bases, 2 outs, no one on. Next guy, so instead there's a runner at first. Next guy gets a base hit. There's runners at first and second, 1 out. Then there's a pass ball. Next guy hits a ground ball to short, scores a run. None of that happens if we just turn that routine double play. And that really has helped us a lot. A lot of the double play balls you talked about Stanford, would have scored more runs. Well, we turned a couple double plays that got them out of some innings that were big innings. And so that makes it tough. And the thing about it, our pitching staff knows how to get that ground ball. Hobbs knows what pitch to call to get that ground ball, and our pitchers know how to execute that pitch to get that ground ball. So having the best middle infield in the game of in college baseball really helps a lot. Not to mention our corner guys are pretty good as well.
What are the benefits of having this long homestand? The Omaha game on Wednesday night begins 13 consecutive games for the Razorbacks at home. They don't leave Fayetteville again until March 23rd when they're going to play Omaha at Kauffman Stadium up in Kansas City. And then during that trip, they'll also go over to Missouri and play Columbia. But, given the teams that they're going to play during this stretch here, they've got Omaha, Southeastern Louisiana, Illinois, Chicago. There's a midweek against someone. I can't remember who it is off the top of my head mixed in there. And then they play Kentucky in the SEC opener. That'll end the homestand. This is the type of stretch where I feel like, Bubba, you expect the team to get really comfortable because they're playing in familiar surroundings. And then, given the competition, given the, just the reputation that Arkansas has, the expectations they have, this is the type of stretch where you expect to win 10 or more games over the next 13.
Oh, without a doubt. And look, one thing that I say all the time, Matt, is baseball players are creatures of habit, and you fall into a routine. And a lot of baseball is just having a routine. When you go on the road, that routine gets disrupted a lot of times. You got travel, you got the meal, the hotel. Yeah, I was one. I never slept good in a hotel. And most baseball players, they like being in their own bed, on their own pillow. It's just different, and look at the facilities we have here. I mean, it's ridiculous what these guys have here. So they just, they're more at home here at home in Baum Walker. They've got the fans supporting them. There's just so many things that make us a different team here at home. But a big part of it is just having a routine at home and sticking to it, and having the fan base behind us. And I think that's huge for us this time of year. I think we really need the love of the fans and the weather and everything, and it's all going to come together and get this team rolling.
When they went to Round Rock, their schedule got disrupted some. They left early on Wednesday morning to try to avoid the sleet and ice that were coming. Now, they ran into it anyway on their trip somewhere in Oklahoma. Ended up taking them a long time to get down to Round Rock on Wednesday. They sleep there Wednesday night. They sleep there Thursday night. They don't play a game until Friday. They're supposed to play Saturday. Then the field conditions are too bad, and they play a doubleheader on Sunday. You think that schedule, the changes in the schedule might have thrown them off a little bit last week?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like I said, you get out of your routine, but these guys are resilient. They're, it's a little bit of adversity, and they're a lot like Dave Van Horn. They're a reflection of the guy at the top. They're tough, they're resilient, they're gritty. A little bit of that's not going to bother them, but it is nice to be back home and just be in a good, comfortable environment at Baum Walker, and that's good medicine for everything.
The hitting obviously is the number one thing, but what are some of the things you're looking for this weekend?
Really just, get some new guys out there on the mound, get a look at the rest of the staff that we haven't seen, and just kind of get in a groove, start putting together multiple hits. We haven't had a lot of innings where we've had multiple hits in an inning. Now before the Jalen Battles home run, we had a couple of really good at bats that led to walks, and then we had a 3-run homer, but we haven't had that multi-hit inning. We haven't had the big hit with the bases loaded that can kind of put a team away. I saw a stat that said we're 0 for 10 with the bases loaded, and everyone acts like the sky's falling. Well, that's 10 at bats. There were a couple balls hit hard in those bases loaded at bats. Pitchers made good pitches, things happen. But I think just getting in a groove, guys getting back their mojo at the plate, getting some confidence. It's tough when you're scuffling just a little bit, just kind of getting everything going again offensively. And, the defense has been the one solid thing, except for a couple of errors on a wet, cold field. The defense has been awesome. Pitching's been good. So I really think it's just a matter of just meshing it all together. Dave's probably still experimenting with the lineup a little bit. I think those are going to be a lot of things that we're going to look to do, this long homestand and get everything ready for conference play when we open up against Kentucky.
0 for 10 with the bases loaded, but there was a walk or a couple of walks during that stretch that did contribute to some runs. So you have to factor that in as well. Arkansas and Southeastern Louisiana will play 3 times this weekend. First game Friday at 3 o'clock. All of the games will be televised by SEC Network Plus. You can catch Bubba and Nick Batters. I think Phil Elson may be there by the end of the weekend, but definitely Nick Batters is going to be filling in for some of those games. You can catch them on the Razorback Sports Network. And as always, you can come to wholehogsports.com before, during, and after the games for all of our baseball coverage. Also check out our basketball coverage. The Razorback basketball team still in the SEC race in the final week of the season. We've also got the Basketball Podcast of Mid-America. You can find all of our podcasts by searching Whole Hog Radio. That's 3 words, WHOLEHOGRADIO in Apple, Spotify, or most podcast stores. We'll be back with another Whole Hog Baseball podcast next week to look back at the Southeastern Louisiana series and look ahead to the series against Illinois Chicago. For Bubba Carpenter, I'm Matt Jones. We appreciate you joining us, and have a great week, everyone.
The proceeding has been a production of wholehogsports.com. Look for our latest podcasts on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast store. And visit us anytime at wholehogsports.com for the latest news and commentary.